with Bill Maher. Bill Maher, before I start to ask you my question, I've been instructed to make sure that Sherry asks you hers.
Go ahead, Sherry.
Well, I wanted to ask you, your film Religulous.
Yes.
You had interviewed your mother and your sister who's here in the audience.
Yes, my sister was right there. And
we were talking earlier.
And can you set up the clip of when you interviewed them?
yes, well, one thing I wanted to do in this movie is show everybody that I had a religious background too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like any different than anybody else, except that I had a mixed marriage. My father, Catholic, my sister and myself and my father used to go to church every Sunday. My mother stayed home.
Yeah.
And I never asked why. Because when you're a kid, whatever they do to you, you just accept.
That's right.
So I just went, and when I was about 13, it sort of just came up at the Christmas party. Mom's Jewish. I'm like, huh? Why didn't we? So I never really talked about this with my mother. I said, I'm doing this movie.
Yeah.
I want to ask my mother on camera, and I think that's what we're going to see.
Okay, let's see this clip.
Of course, you didn't go to church with us.
No.
But
We
I
never
don't-
had a family discussion.
We never
about
had a
it.
family
Never.
discussion about that.
Every family is dysfunctional.
So you thought even this, which wasn't your religion, was better than no religion?
Well, even this only told you good things, I thought.
But it's just so shamelessly invented as they go along.
Well, we can say that now.
Was anyone... Why do you remember Dad stopped going to church?
We use birth control, and the church frowned on birth control.
Here's something I bet you we have in common. I thought my parents only had sex twice, once for my sister, once for myself. So for me to hear this was just blew my mind that's why we stopped going to
I
church.
understood in watching the film too when you talked a lot about how you were Catholic, you were brought up that way, and a lot of the things didn't make sense to you. I actually felt the same way growing up. Going into the confessional booth never made sense. I would try to keep track of like what sins were what and how many Hail Marys and Our Fathers I had to say and why they weren't matching up every week. I think that it's important to question religion, and I think that this is, I do. Why go blindly into something? But I do think faith is important, be it if it's not within a Catholic church or whatever temple you're at. You need to, I still think faith is important.
In this movie, you know, one reason why it got such good reviews, and even religious people who watch it like this movie, is that we don't judge, we don't point fingers, we're not making anybody feel bad. I'm just asking questions that nobody ever asks, because this is the last taboo subject.
And then when you get irrational answers, that's your joke, right?
You know the question?
Yes.
When you say you...
Exactly.
Faith, how do you feel about faith? Because there are a lot of men, great men, who during times of trouble relied on their faith. Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Mandela when he was in prison. How do you feel about faith?
Well, faith...
Organized religion.
Well, I mean, faith, if you mean believing in something with no reason to, I'm not a big fan of that. Faith means lack of critical thinking. Every politician in this country says, faith guides me, and I want to say, why is that a good thing in your job?
Does it bother you that both presidential candidates are Christian?
Christian, no. But, you know, a lot of people think Obama is a Muslim.
Yeah.
And some people think he's the Antichrist.
Sure.
Do you think he's the Antichrist?
No, I don't think he's the Antichrist.
We got that straight.
Did you think we thought that?
Well, a lot of people do. I mean, if you're irrational, who knows? That's the point. If you're irrational about some things, if you believe a man could live to 900, who knows what you could believe?
It's a slippery slope.
I mean, there's a clip of Sarah Palin on YouTube where she's being ministered by a witch doctor.
We showed that on this show.
About the pastor who's praying over her, right?
So here's my question. Is it the fact that there are so many different ways that people manifest this religious thing? Because I think... do you think that religion and faith are two separate things? Because it seems like you're going after... I'd love you to talk about that.
Certainly spirituality is different.
Yes.
I mean, I don't even know what that means.
Are you spiritual? What does that mean?
I always say it's on my to-do list. You know,
That's honest.
Americans love to throw... Exactly. Americans love to throw everybody said, I'm a spiritual person.
Yeah.
A girl once said that to me in a bar at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I said, really? We're in a bar at 2 a.m.? But that's what a spiritual...
Do you think that someone with faith is then stupid and irrational automatically?
I don't, because this is what we were saying, neurological disorder. It's just because there are intelligent people who are religious. They've just walled off a part of your mind.
Tell them about what you learned. This movie teaches you so much about different religions. For example, the story about Jesus and Mary and Joseph is a story that has been told before. Tell that story. Tell it.
Well, God had a son.
Do like Jesus told it.
And he said, Jesus, I'm sending you on a suicide mission. But don't worry, they can't kill you because you're really me.
You know, you say
wait a minute. That story is not original with the Christians.
We're not going to have my faith mocked either.
A God who was born on September 25th. Okay, who was
December 25th.
December 25th, that exact birthday.
Right.
Okay. By the way, the church did not set that birth date until the year 349 A.D.
Sure.
So,
there are a lot of things that were set up by man in terms of
okay. But the God who was born of a virgin, died, was resurrected 3 days later, died for everybody's sins. That was an old story going around the Mediterranean for 1,000 years. Horus is an Egyptian god, the exact same story. He raised somebody named Lazarus from the dead. Mithra, a Persian god. Krishna, the Indian god.
Because I know in believing God, you have to suspend a lot of logic in believing God. But when you did this movie, you talked to a lot of people about God. Have you ever just talked to God and asked God, what does he think?
Well,
God will talk to you, Bill. It'll be real deep.
The question, did he answer you?
Did he answer? He answered me. He absolutely answered me. No, we don't need to call Bellevue.
Because that's just a voice in your head.
Not a voice.
You mean a God?
Go see Religulous. We'll be in theaters on Friday. You can catch Real Time with Bill Maher Friday nights. The reason I'm doing this is because we absolutely hit the wall and had to go. He's on HBO. But we will be right back.